So many New Zealanders are under the belief that colonisation is a history that took place in the 1800s, where intrepid pioneers travelled from Great Britain and settled in New Zealand. Then the natives quickly gave away all their lands in exchange for mere trinkets like nails and blankets. Now, this narrative was created to protect British New Zealanders' feelings. In reality, the colonisation of New Zealand was based on British colonial greed and is still happening today. In 1840, the chiefs and tribes of New Zealand signed a treaty that, in the preamble, was a gracious invitation to immigrants from Australia and Europe the privilege of immigrating to Aotearoa New Zealand. Now, had the benevolent native signatories not agreed to this, many New Zealand families simply would not exist today. Now, Article 2 offered the chiefs and tribes full and exclusive undisturbed possession of their lands. Now, the definition of undisturbed is not altered or interfered with. Now, within 23 years of signing the Treaty of Waitangi, greedy British colonists had mounted a full-scale invasion of the Waikato for the deliberate purpose of stealing land at gunpoint. Now, Article 3 offered the natives of New Zealand the same civil rights as British immigrants. But British colonists ignored this, and Māori rights to land ownership was denied. The excuse was a sovereignty movement based in Ngaruahia designed to protect land rights was somehow a threat to Queen Victoria's sovereignty. Now, at the time, Queen Victoria ruled over 400 million people and was not lying awake at night fretting about the kingitanga based out of Ngaruahia. So the question is, how is colonisation still happening in the 21st century? Now, the definition of colonisation is the action or process of settling among and establishing control over the indigenous people of an area. Now, hate groups like Hobson's Pledge and NZCPR continue to exert their control over Māoridom by lobbying the New Zealand public that anything awarded to Māori in redress for brutal land confiscation is an unjustified attack on British New Zealanders' rights. Now, they deny Māori are indigenous. Hobson's Pledge's supporters believe British New Zealanders are indigenous to Polynesia because we all simply arrived on boats, despite Polynesians had lived in the South Pacific for the last 3,000 years. By undermining Polynesian indigeneity, this somehow gives them a moral high ground to criticise and condemn their fellow countrymen. Another way is they portray Māori culture as primitive. Often, Hobson's Pledge supporters describe Māori as a Stone Age culture. Now, this is based on theories of British racial superiority, that some members of our species are superior to other members. Now, Americans celebrate the discovery of the American continent by the explorer Christopher Columbus as one of their greatest achievements. Māori Polynesians had discovered both North and South America 500 years prior to Columbus. Hence the word kumara followed the yam across the Pacific. Now, how could cavemen struggle to circumnavigate an area of the planet the size of Russia? Polynesians had a space-age technology called celestial navigation that Buzz Aldrin used to navigate to the moon. Now, another strategy is to adjust history. Now, Hobson's Pledge have a raft of amateur historians like Andy Oakley. Now, recently, he deceived entrepreneur and philanthropist Sir William Gallagher into giving a hate speech he delivered at Waikato Stadium. Now, Oakley has misinterpreted the treaty that offered the same rights and privileges to all New Zealanders on the 6th of February 1840. The only people that could possibly consider themselves New Zealanders were of Polynesian descent on that date. Of the 3,000 British immigrants residing in New Zealand, none of them considered themselves New Zealanders. This was a name reserved only for Māori. Now, Oakley interpreting the treaty like it was written last week and is deliberately being done with the facts. Another strategy they have is they ridicule Māori culture. Often Hobson's Pledge linked Māori culture to cannibalism, and despite the royal British royal family were deprived cannibals like King Charles II, really they will link Māori culture to the All Black haka and the most successful professional sports team in history, the All Blacks. Of course, the Māori haka plays a strong part in their success. Mysteriously, Hobson's Pledge were capable of running a multi-million-dollar campaign during the elections and delivered their propaganda to every home in the country. Is this somehow linked to the philanthropist Sir William Gallagher? Now, the motto of Hobson's Pledge is, "We are now one people." Or maybe they should take a leaf out of their own book and stop colonising their fellow countrymen with their own sense of racial superiority. Can Hobson's Pledge followers genuinely consider themselves Kiwis? Or are they third generation British colonists?